but
Okay, all right.
California it has. Like,
Okay, boys, get to the microphones. Phony at the mic. What's great is you understand my cultural references, so that's good. So we're not that really. Basically we're on the same maturity level.
Yeah,
even though I'm 30 years older.
We
than you
spend
guys.
a lot of time just making ridiculous non sequiturs.
We could talk about that, and that's all included in the pre-roll when you listen to the Big Fat American Radio, whatever the hell this is. I'm Zach Martin on the Big Fat American Radio Network. We have the guys from 9electric, great band. I guess out of California, right?
Mm-hmm. Los Angeles.
There's no doubt in you guys, no deceit. You're definitely LA kind of guys, and I would imagine that you've hung out at the Santa Monica Pier, and at one point you saw Rock and Roll Jesus, that guy. You seen him?
Oh yeah. He's dead.
He is.
I believe he's
well.
deceased.
I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah,
well,
he did.
Move your microphone a little bit up. Let me tell you why Rock and Roll Jesus is probably dead. That was blasphemy, man.
Right.
You just can't be doing that. You know.
He needed to leave for every musician's sins.
I kind of felt like when I took the picture with them after I visited the engine station 127 in Carson City. You know what that is? Oh, yeah. Be nice if I put his microphone on.
Check it.
You're Ron?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're Mike.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got Ron and Mike and Zach. Okay, so I went to engine 127, which doesn't have squad 127, which is the TV home of Emergency. Then I went over to UCLA Harbor Hospital, which is Rampart. You guys know this show?
Rampart?
About the paramedics?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great show, right? Station 51.
Right.
Engine 127.
Those are old shows, right?
Oh,
Yeah, they're old shows.
Right, 70s
I'm
shows?
old. Yeah.
They're jamming it like Nick
TV
at
Land show,
Night
those shows?
and
Me TV is my favorite.
TNT.
I have the whole box set at home. My daughter and I, we watch Emergency on a regular basis, usually every Saturday.
Yeah.
So we watch, and I'm friends with, of all people, who is it? Oh, Randy Mantooth. My wife thinks I have a crush on Randy Mantooth. I don't. I do have I'm part of the Randy Mantooth fan club. But I always thought he was cool, John and Roy. And then you had this incredible cast. One was an actual fireman. I'm actually good friends with Mike Stoker, who is the driver of the truck, who later became a L.A. County Fire Department captain. And I've done a lot of work with fire and PD throughout the years. And I know one of the guys from Chips, Larry Wilcox.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You have a very Quentin Tarantino-esque knowledge.
Yeah, I do.
Connection
it's
with
really weird.
70s television.
But if you ask me what the new movies are, I can't tell you. The last movie I saw was Wonder Woman.
We were just discussing how not awesome current movies are.
Oh, they suck. I mean, they're all reboots.
Exactly.
Reboot, yeah.
All reboots or just franchise comic book stuff. But the saving grace is Quentin Tarantino coming out with one.
Well, the saving grace was Gal Gadot for woman.
True, yeah, she's beautiful.
Wonder Woman.
I saw Wonder Woman. I don't like those movies, and I like that one.
Do you know she was pregnant during that?
No.
Yeah, and she was kicking butt. She
bums me out that she's pregnant.
She was a beauty queen from Israel and served in the Israeli armed forces.
Yep.
So she's not just your average girl. She really is a Wonder Woman. I mean, she really can. And what I like about her, she empowers little girls. She gives them, girls something to look up to. And in many levels challenges the guys about how we're supposed to be and act.
Right.
There are those aspects of the movies that I really do like. Yeah. But I think that the 70s shows like on Me TV, like MASH, very well written. And it's macaroni and cheese for the brain. Right. And it's something I can watch with my kid without worrying about, what the subject matter is going to be.
You know what's funny? Right. He and I have discussed, Ron and I have discussed MASH before. We don't, for whatever reason, we don't get it.
Well, okay, so
how do you not get Klinger in a dress? I mean, that's hilarious right there.
But like
he's a Disney princess now.
Here's the thing. I dismissed it as a kid because it was constantly on TV. And then I had to rediscover
You took it for
as
granted.
an adult.
Yeah.
And what was there was a movie before the show, right?
Yes, there was an actual movie that was based on.
When I saw the movie, then the show kind of was like,
Made sense.
okay,
to me,
I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm
to
in.
me, the show almost was like a play in a lot of ways. It was like, maybe because there wasn't a laugh track built in, and I was too young to understand the humor, because the humor is on a different level.
Oh, yeah.
It's very dark and weird. And not understanding war at that time, too, the context, I would probably fare a lot better now watching it now.
You probably would.
And I didn't get it forever.
Yeah. And it also gives you kind of it wasn't always that funny. It's a show that would make you cry. Like,
right.
I would say
well,
one
just
of
the theme song bummed me out.
Yeah,
I'm like, you know what? I want to watch Bewitched because that chick's or I Dream of Jeannie because they're hot and it's funny.
The song's depressing. I mean, so it had that depth.
Yeah, I remember being a kid. I'm like, if one of these guys doesn't get zapped into like a little bottle here in a minute or something like that,
I'm so tuned to the channel, man.
Mom, change the channel. Go back to that blonde woman.
I'm going to go on skateboards out in the back, the ravine, play there by the Brady Bunch house.
I remember, just to talk about Jeannie and Bewitched for a second. I remember vividly being a kid and being like, I don't know what I said, but I was just like, yep.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Major Nelson used to piss me off even as a little kid. I'm like, how can you not be more like Major Healy?
Right,
Major
exactly.
Healy he wishes he had a Genie. You're trying to get rid of her. What's wrong with you?
He was always like fending her off. Like, who does that?
What are you, don't ask, tell before the time comes?
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Barbara Eden, man.
I thought that was pretty funny little line
If you would have been walking up with Barbara Eden or walking past us with Barbara Eden, I would have tripped you and pushed you out of the way.
Well, you saw me with the supermodel, Wendy Stewart Kaplan. Not bad, right? Anyway, yeah, those shows are great. The thing about MASH, and we'll move on to what you guys are up to.
Now let's just talk about shows.
We can do that. Patrick Swayze was in an episode
of MASH?
And he ends up finding out that he has leukemia, and he's going to stay with his buddy who needs him. Mm-hmm. And Father Mulcahy is so worried about this visiting cardinal making a great impression that he basically gets really kind of nasty with everybody in the camp because he doesn't want to be embarrassed by the people at the camp.
Right.
And it turns out that he realized what it really meant to love another human being, to be a brother, and that turned into the sermon. One of the best, as you guys know, I'm a Orthodox priest, which is kind of weird, right? But I use that as kind of like these life lessons. I can use them in sermons because they are so real. So I think those shows that really know how to relate to people on different level and educate you at the same time, and then make you curious about the facts to make you want to research it more or give you a better understanding of the horrors of war is really important because, it's really easy to go John Wayne on people and go, we're going to fight until we beat these guys. But then you find out the person on the other end, they're human beings who have families just like you do, and they don't want to be any part of this.
Right.
And that's the travesty, and that's the sadness of it all. But we're not here to talk about
deep,
that,
man.
Wait, I just thought of it. Let me lighten the load.
You're going
to
write a song after we're done with this. The radio guy. He's not as dumb as he looks or sounds.
I thought of a good premise. What if Patrick Swayze's character from Point Break surfed into Gilligan's Island?
That'd been great.
And then taught Gilligan how to rob a bank. But then because Gilligan's such an idiot, he locks the vault, and they're all stuck in the vault instead of the island. Remember how Gilligan used to screw up every attempt to leave?
And how was it that Ginger and Marianne had all those outfits along with the house?
They're two babes, and you know how babes pack.
And then the other thing is, I know how they pack. The other thing is, we won't even mention it on the radio, but picture this. Imagine growing up watching Gilligan's Island, Ginger, Marianne, and those discussions, only to find out that one of your best friend's dads dated Ginger back in the day and you never knew, which happened to me recently. I'm not going to mention any names. But I was like,
Louise, huh?
I can't believe that. Yeah. You never told me that.
Oh, man. Those two.
How did he pull that?
I don't know.
Was he like...
I guess when I guess most of us, we take so much for granted that it just, when it becomes no big deal, I think that's when you lose it all.
Yeah.
Like when you guys go out and stage each and every time, and you get to the point where you're bored doing it and you're just going through the motions, you've lost it all.
Yeah, right. And we don't feel that over.
Don't count once you start counting the cost, you're already lost.
Right.
So tell me about your new album.
Well, Ginger and Marianne.
I know. I derailed.
Now I have
this whole
Ginger
thing.
and Marianne in my head again. I'm like, I just thinking back to when I was a kid and I saw those shows.
Okay, you know what? We can use that.
Yeah, let me.
When did you get your first instrument?
Probably when I was like 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
I think my dad bought me a guitar, and I foolishly, at the time I was into sports and whatever little goofy stuff. So I remember not understanding to use my left hand to fret anything. I didn't get that.
You just
so
wanted to hit the strings.
You know what I mean? And then,
boom. That's good. I like it.
And I remember my friends and I, we started trying to do a little band thing together, and nobody knew what they were doing. And then very foolishly, I had this friend who had two older brothers who were like basically like these party dudes. I didn't comprehend it at the time, but he borrowed the guitar, my friend, who's the same age as me, maybe a year older, and I never got it back because the two older brothers who were like party dudes like sold his shit for like drugs or something like that or whatever. But I kept getting this like, oh, this guy has it. I'm going to get it back. I'm going to get it back. Never got it back.
Oh.
Cut to a few
You got
years.
rooked.
I got taken. So cut to a couple years later, I started learning properly. And that's when I started playing, which was probably like 11.
Now, did you have to convince your parents to let you take lessons? How did that
No,
work?
my parents are huge music fans.
Oh, I
And
see.
we just grew up with it. My father plays guitar and stuff like that, so it was easy.
Did
Yeah.
you? Now, what about your mom? What was the first album or record your mom bought for you?
I don't remember, but she had the Beatles' White Album,
Okay,
which is my
yeah.
favorite record of all
Oh, yeah,
time.
that's a great album. Yeah.
And I remember seeing it and listening to it, and just I still love it to this day because it's my it's my favorite record. It has such a variety of music on it. It has
You're right.
It has some of the Beatles' most hard rocking stuff.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
has
they invented
beautiful-
heavy metal
Yeah,
with Helter
absolutely,
Skelter.
Absolutely,
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Beautiful acoustic music on it, and then like funny songs.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, Bungalow
It
Bill.
runs the gamut. So if I would say before, remember that question that people used to ask if you're stranded on a desert island, you would have
White
that
Album.
record
That's a good answer.
that's
you
without
know,
hesitation.
There's a couple of things about that album. My daughter, who's turning 19, it's one of her favorites. We're always listening to Bungalow Bill. It was a favorite of my protege, Scott Muni. We'd always do these Beatle blocks. And a lot of the stuff we'd drag, especially if we're having fun, from the White Album. What the White Album is to me was each Beatle expressing themselves as a solo artist before they were solo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there are some cuts that, like a Jealous Guy, had different lyrics in the beginning.
Right.
Is that right?
Child in Nature.
My favorite song from the White Album has to be "While My Guitar Gently Weeps"
Great song.
with Eric Clapton on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the covers, I've seen the video where Tom Petty along with Prince are playing. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, many times.
That is one of the most powerful songs I've ever heard in my
Absolutely.
life.
And then actually, what's great about that, too, is it cemented Prince's guitar prowess. A lot of people were
I
kind of
had
blind
no
to that.
idea
Yeah,
how much
yeah.
of a guitar god he was.
Just that one song will
Right.
go down in history as proving how great he was.
I think he was the closest thing that we would ever get to another Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I don't mean because of the color of his skin.
No,
I'm
no
talking
way.
about the look, the flavor, the style, the innovation, those kind of
The
things.
guitar,
Yeah,
when he
the
plays the
energy.
guitar, much like Jimmy, and I know Ron will test this too. We've talked about this before. It's not like he's playing the guitar; it's like he's playing another arm.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like it's a part of his body,
like an organ.
It's strange.
And
yeah.
you
It's
can't
so
just
strange.
when I've heard some people are like, Prince is not that good. I'm like,
No,
okay,
he really is.
He's amazing. Like he
blew me away. When I finally had that same realization, I was just like,
yeah.
Yeah, sometimes
why was I not paying attention?
Well, I mean, because again, we take something for granted, and then when it goes away, like Tom Petty, after he died, I was like,
Right.
oh my gosh, that was a killer. David
Yeah.
Bowie
Oh,
was
yeah,
another
yeah.
one. Like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
you got to be kidding me. Anybody else want to die on me?
Yeah,
Too many
You know,
great
yeah,
rock
so-
musicians are
rough time.
going.
And I think that I used to be disappointed in the acts coming up, but I'm not, because I like what I see and I like what I hear. I like the work ethic. That's a big deal to
Yeah,
me. Like,
yeah.
my question, I'll have the same for you, is how hard do you work at your craft? How much effort do you put in each and every day? What's your vision?
It's pretty rough.
We put in painful amounts.
Yeah.
Here's a good example of something that we're just doing right now, and people can think this is a big deal or not. But we drove from California, LA, where we live, all the way to the East Coast to play shows. You know what I mean? And we had one show in between.
What kind of vehicle was it?
A van.
Okay, at least it wasn't
Like a
a
raper
a
van.
Prius or something.
No. It's yellow too.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we go. Or,
Hey!
our band is 9electric. And we have a lightning bolt in our logo, so we
That's
call it
great.
the banana bolt because it's.
Oh, that's
it's
kinda
a-
cool.
Yeah, and Mean Mr. Mustard to go back to the Beatles.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what I'm saying is like I'm not trying to get anybody to boo-hoo, but
we've had to take so many things that when we were starting out as kids, you would never imagine you have to take on as an artist, and as the digital age keeps moving forward, it's just you have to take on more and more just to keep up. And
Well, I'll tell you guys.
so you got to love what you're doing.
Yeah, you have to have
Otherwise, what are you
passion for it, right? You have to believe in yourself. You have to have this faith.
right.
And
That has to
Yeah,
outweigh the any of the negatives that come with it. It's like you have to stop a lot of times and just go like, oh wait, I just enjoy doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. for every mile that you log driving and every kind of like, I haven't slept, or bad news, this or that, or this is not working, or some weird thing that happens, it all goes away the second you start playing. Now, the thing that I love about our band is like whenever we get on stage, we just love to play.
That's good.
And there's a lot of energy, and whether there's one person there or 2,000 people there.
So
we prefer it to be 2,000.
Well, it doesn't really matter. I'll tell you something.
It does.
Well, to me,
yeah. Well,
it's harder for me to be on stage in front of 4 people than it is 2,000 people. I'm the opposite. I feel
you like more people.
I can handle gigantic crowds. I can't handle the small crowds.
Yeah, because they're looking at you.
I get a little more self-conscious.
You can see them judging.
Yeah, that judgmental look, especially those New Yorkers.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, it's almost like when there's less people there, there's more to prove because you can see them kind of being uncertain, and they also don't have the luxury of just being in a group. When you're in a group, you can do anything. Like, you can throw a shoe. You can not be paying attention. You can be looking at your phone. You could be drinking. You could be sneaking some drugs or whatever you're doing.
Well, then
when it's like 8 or 9 people, they are being looked at as well.
Then it's all even, isn't it? They're they're probably just as nervous and uncomfortable as you are. So that makes it more intimate. And you know what it does for you guys? It makes you actually better at what you do when it's a small crowd.
You know what? When there's a small crowd and I think
you play better.
And there's somebody looking, somebody looking
at
you with like some sort of like discontent. I stare at them.
Oh my God!
I stare at them.
Your stare has got to be mostly uncomfortable.
And they look away
with the Rage shirt on.
No, I wear something else. I wear a BG shirt.
I think this biker dude's going to kick my butt. Yeah. Well, that's good. But I think that, if you get in that situation where it's a small crowd, remember this moment here and go, well, no, this is when we're really going to roll. This is when we're going to really blow their socks off. This is when we're going to give them bragging rights. One of my friends saw The Who when he was a kid at some place, my father's place, I think it was out in Long Island. Very intimate. Not too many people there. Can you imagine being there day one when The Who took the stage for one of their very first times in the United States and not maybe the biggest turnout?
Right.
Do you have that story to tell? I remember one of the best shows that I remember to this day, and I've been to a lot of them, was now Tesla. They get mad at me when I say this. I saw them at the Scope, and maybe 500 people showed up. But if you tell them, no, it was like 5,000, 2,000.
It was their first show?
Dude, no. They were established at that point.
Okay, got you.
It was in Virginia Beach, and a lot of people, I guess, didn't get their music, but I did.
Right,
okay?
Right.
I got the whole great radio controversy, all right? I understood what they meant. They're more a cerebral band, too. Because, think about the title of the band. What are they talking about?
Right.
Who's this Marconi guy and who's Tesla? You get into that argument. So I'm there, 500 people. I had a blast. But they argue about the amount of people. I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, for me, don't ruin my story that we're only 500.
Well, put it this way.
I could have made it 5 people of 50.
Bands are not unlike boxers who, boxers get knocked out and they go, he didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you got knocked out. So bands are like, if it's 500, it always goes up to 900. If it's 900, it goes up to 1,500.
Right.
If it's 5, they didn't play.
How about this one? I remember interviewing bands like Rat in the 80s. Okay,
I love Rat.
Talk about going back. Yeah. So how many? I really should have done a better job interviewing, but I was a young broadcaster. What do I know?
Right.
How many albums you guys got? This is our 10th album. I'm like, really? What are the names of the other 9? And then they get mad.
Those guys can be kind of
that really doesn't count.
Yeah.
Oh, well, originally Steve Percy didn't want to do the interview.
Of course, yeah.
He gave me a hard time, but then he heard Kicks on, Steve Whiteman and Kicks the day before. We had a blast. We had such a great time. I don't want to talk about all the great time that we had, but we autographing, and the fire department showed up, and we were drinking beer, and everybody heard it in the whole neighborhood. And so the next day, Steve Percy came in. He gave me an attitude, and I go, so how did you come up with the name with Rat? It means rock and roll all the time. But he gave me a real crap attitude. I go, well, thanks for stopping by. That one question, one answer, and I threw him the hell out. I was like, yeah, you're going to be like that? Goodbye. I don't need you.
Right.
I already had my fun yesterday when you didn't want to be here. So another time, another thing I don't like is waiting for the band when, on old-time radio, us disc jockeys, sometimes we'd get the assignment with having the meet and greets behind stage with our fans that won tickets to the show, maybe from our show. And this one time, it was at McNichols Arena in Denver, and it was Guns N' Roses. And they had a habit of not only showing up late, but really late.
Right.
After the concert. So I might have waited 40 minutes. I'm like, goodbye. Everyone's like, are you crazy? And as I'm leaving, they're walking in, and I go, well, thanks for showing up so late. I'm leaving now. And I shocked them. They couldn't believe it. Anybody would just do that.
Right. Especially Axel, if he was even there.
Well, Duff, I think...
It was Duff.
Well, Axel was there too, but Duff McKeegan, he remembered the face because years later, I was at LAX. You know when they were doing that crap with the rebuilding of LAX?
Right.
And you had to go out and back in just to get your luggage?
Yeah.
So I'm coming out to go get my luggage. Duff walks this way. I'm walking that way. And we've probably done a few interviews over the years. I look at him. He looked at me. And we're like old guys, not willing to admit that we forgot who the other person was. So this is how it went.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? Good. How are you? How's the family? Great. How's yours? Good. They're right here. We're going to Disneyland. All right, then. See you soon. Take care. Okay, bye. My wife goes, who is that? I go, I don't know. And later on, I'm like, oh, my God, it was Duff.
That was a typical LA conversation by
definitely.
two people not from LA.
And
which is a typical LA conversation.
What, right, exactly. That's why I fit right in.
Right,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? Like,
all you have to do is just, in LA, just don't say anything controversial until it's like, basically lauded by people.
Yeah.
And you're just doing everything perfect. Like, hey, oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever. How you doing? And just no clue.
Well, here's what gets me about LA. I don't know how it is possible for you guys to have high speed chases. What is that, 35 miles an hour?
Right, exactly.
He's going 35 miles on 10. I mean, this could get dangerous.
Funny, when that happens, I'm like, what freeway is that? So I can just go drive on it.
Root for the guy. That's what everybody does.
I'm like, let me go get on that freeway.
Now you know it's moving if they got that going.
Hey, it takes me half an hour to get to the gym, which is 5 minutes away from me.
And then here's the other problem with LA, and you can't walk. New York, you can walk anywhere. LA, it's kind of spread out.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. When you're riding on a interstate highway, a big one, you pick it. I get warning signs to be careful of pedestrians that wander on the highway. I'm sorry, I'm not taking any advice from any of these politicians. They have signs like that.
Right.
But
we have better weather than anybody though. So
you really do, and
that's our saving grace.
Well, yeah. If you show up at the right time of the year, every time I show up, it's like after you have all those fires.
Right.
And it's still got the smoky smell. I go there, I leave, then you have torrential downpours. So you get mudslides, earthquakes, and fires. It's all it is in LA. And then maybe you get like 300 days of good weather, right? Fantastic weather.
Yeah.
But the weather is different. Like if you're a person that usually needs sunblock in Florida, for some reason, I could be wrong. I go to California, I don't need the sunblock. Is there anything to that? Isn't that weird?
Well, I don't know.
What is that?
Is that's what it is?
It's like sunglasses.
Oh, I get it. I get it. All right.
Exactly.
The same particulates that are in sunblock are in the smog.
And it's free.
It's free. All right, so tell me a little bit about your album, 9electric, your new album. What's it called? Some of the tracks.
So earlier
I gave it a listen to, and you're going to talk about each track, and I'm going to tell you what I think.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right?
I like that.
Earlier in the year, we dropped this baby. It's called Megalith.
My favorite album, Megalith. It's a great name.
By far.
The album artwork?
You know what
tremendous.
You know what you're being like right now? You're being like P. Diddy and Jonah Hill and Get Him to the Greek.
Don't understand.
You're acting like you're like African Child.
Okay, well, listen.
Do you know that?
Remember? No, I don't know because I don't know the reference. I'm Me TV. I mean, what are you doing to me?
Right.
You know, P. Diddy?
But do you appreciate the
Northwestern?
the Family Guy segues that are? I told you that we
the
would do
non
that kind of
sequiturs.
stuff.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Constantly.
Yeah.
And then real quick before I'm not gonna. I don't want to.
Go ahead.
We're derailing talking about my own record.
That's fine.
Okay, so in Get Him to the Greek, there's what's the dude's name again? What's his real name? Why am I? Russell Brand. Russell Brand plays this British rock, this obnoxious British rock star, not terribly unlike the Gallagher brothers from Oasis, stuff like that.
Russell Brand, I know him from his sex addiction.
Nice. He is this guy who hasn't been active for a while. Jonah Hill works at a record label that is run by P. Diddy.
P. Diddy.
Yeah, so Jonah Hill
comes to be Puff Daddy.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
So Jonah Hill comes up with an idea to get his band back together, which is called Infant Sorrow.
Okay.
And he put out this really, it's just very egomaniacal. Pretentious. It's called African Child, and it's supposed to like help black people, and it's like the worst thing ever, right? So Jonah Hill, P. Diddy tells Jonah Hill
a lot of ways I'm like Larry
to
David.
pretend to like the record, even though it's shit.
Oh, okay.
So that's the whole thing. So you're doing that right now.
No, I'm not.
Best song I ever heard.
I am not being facetious.
But
It's
the
a
record,
great album and it rocks.
The good thing for us though is our record's not shit. And it's not pretentious.
Okay,
It's very deep.
Good. I'm glad you
In a
put some thought
non-pretentious
into
way.
it.
Yeah.
All right,
So
tell
I'm
us.
sorry.
Like in our earlier incarnations, there was a lot more electronic influences. This one's, much more stripped down, big guitars.
I kind of like that sound. Yeah,
It's very
Seriously,
hard. It's
though.
very hard rock.
It's musicianship.
Yeah, but it's very hard rock. But it's very like now too. There is electronic aspects into it. But before, like when this band started in 2011, there was a very much of a dance factor in our music because one of the people I started the band with, he was very much into that. He's not in the band anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So Ron and I were able to basically create the album that we would like to listen to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a good way to. That's a good way to do it.
He and I both started music on guitars, so it was just like,
Right.
let's go back to.
Well, I think the
basics.
best thing is like when we had the other people involved in the band, it was very democratic, but it wasn't, which is kind of ridiculous. It's like run by democracy.
Oh, it's like being the
but then
Queen
there's
of
like
England, where you don't really have a
this,
say until you decide you want to have a
there's
say.
like this pseudo dictator taking over all the music, right? And like to get our songs out, it was impossible. We'd come up with songs, they'd go into the queue, and they'd sit there. Not to mention, we were kind of forced to write music in a box that was not terribly comfortable for he or I. So when that element changed, we were able to just go to our grab bag because Ron and I actually have a lot of bands in common that we both like.
Yeah,
which is super important.
I think with that, guys, is you have your favorites, right, and you borrow from each one of your favorites to make your own masterpiece.
Yeah, absolutely. Instead of having to try
like
to
Legos.
Instead of trying to having to put what
I can only make a wall, but
what we like onto somebody else's vision, which was very tough.
Yeah,
So,
I get that.
Yeah, so
sure.
So the former drummer was also the producer for most of our, time as a band.
Yeah.
So that everything, even the stuff that we brought to the table, was going through that final filter.
it would
And
change.
So it was a specific.
It would
thing
be
that
like
goes on.
writing a note and then handing it around the room, and it changes. And that was the problem. It was like, all right, this doesn't even resemble anything that I even wanted it to resemble.
It's like playing telephone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we.
It's like playing telephone.
We were lucky enough to team up with a producer who was had really similar tastes to he and I, and it was just.
His name's Sean McGee, by the way.
It happened so quick. How fast did we do?
Really fast. I mean, before it was like painfully. The process was painfully slow.
Fast.
It was paint drying style before. We just went fast. We had a full record's worth of material in like 3 weeks.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, was the material over years? Like you had stuff that you would work and recraft?
It was all written in real
We
time.
didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
We
that's
wanted
kind of
to
cool.
see what we could do.
We had a member change at the end of 2017. 2017. I'm like, what year is it? He left the band, and immediately we got to working on demos. And by the beginning of 2018, we were starting to record. Now, before that, it took about 3 years to finish the record we did prior.
Oh, God.
It was like Chinese democracy light.
It's like the new Boston.
Yeah. It was just like, come on, man. I was like, it just takes too long. And like, yeah. So it just went fast and furious. And I would write songs literally on my phone, on a little app on my phone called GarageBand. And then I got an iPad, and I did them on iPad. And I'd send them over to Ron, and he'd listen to them, and he'd start like formulating words and stuff like that. Then we'd drive out to Vegas, where Sean is a producer, and we just basically get these random sessions. One day we were out there for 5 days. Another day we were out there for 9 days. Then 6 days. Then 2 days. And basically from January 2018 to I would say about June, we were just working on this. So we ended up recording like 19 songs in total.
It. So do you have 19 tracks in this album?
We have 12 tracks on this album, and then the others are on an EP. But at one point, going back to the White Album, I was like, let's do a double album.
That's
a dream of mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To like just have this giant body of work that basically polarizes people, going like,
I got
these
it.
6 songs suck. Why are they on there? Because it's fucking the Brown album. That's why. I don't know if I'm supposed to cuss.
No,
right?
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's like you're and your record guy John can take you to the physical graffiti building.
Oh, sweet.
Take a new picture and go. Your next album should be not physical graffiti, and then you have the leftovers, including the tracks from this album,
Right.
and you put together one whale of a double album.
Yeah.
and have some cover tunes. because Led Zeppelin is pretty much a great cover band.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
People don't realize that.
Yeah, yeah.
So find some cool covers that you can do, and put it on there, double album, man, and give people more bang for their
I
buck,
wanna
and then
do
go.
a bunch of covers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
A whole
a
cover
lot.
them.
I think bands that are afraid to do covers, I think there's a little something wrong with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what are you?
It's probably
so
ego.
full of yourself
Ego,
that you can't find some. And by the way, it's not just a cover; it's an interpretation.
Right.
Of like, so if you can rediscover while you're on the road, because you have all that time in the van with Virginia farting, Virginia farts it up, and she should have showed up. Otherwise, But so as Virginia's farting up the van, you're like, oh my god, I can't believe a girl did that. You could discover some new music that you can add to your repertoire. What would you say are the bands in the different genres that do influence you guys?
Well, we were just talking about Guns N' Roses a minute ago. We love Guns N' Roses.
I love Guns N' Roses.
We love Guns N' Roses. And then I was just actually, you gave me an idea, and we'll do a covers album like they did, and we'll just call it the Rigatoni Incident.
That's
instead
good.
Of the spaghetti
Yeah,
incident.
that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
I like
a
that.
strange Italian dish that I don't know anything about, or the shrimp scampi incident, or whatever,
Yeah. And you know what? Throw like 30-second stupid songs about shrimp scampi and stuff like that. So, and you know what you call it? In
the Red
homage.
Lobster theme.
Yeah, you go in homage to Frank Zappa. Right?
Yeah. we love Guns N' Roses, even though we don't try to sound like Guns N' Roses by any means. We are not a down and dirty rock and roll band.
Yeah.
But we love their attitude and the wide scope of music that they're able to create. Like Rage Against the Machine, a ton,
I like
especially.
Rage.
I
I feel
love
like there's
them.
a lot of Soundgarden.
I love Soundgarden.
We love
Chris
Soundgarden.
Cornell.
Soundgarden and
earlier
Alice in
about 'em.
Chains are
That's
huge
good.
influences of he and I.
So you guys must have grew up listening to me on the radio. I'd imagine.
When I first
Probably,
touched the guitar, that was hot on the airwaves.
I'm a man in the box.
Yeah, totally.
Living in my pit.
Yeah, 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah, 9 Inch Nails. Head like a hole. I'd rather die. Give you control.
Earlier Manson. Beatles, Zeppelin. We have seriously a very AC/DC. We're huge AC/DC fans.
I got a great song for you to cover. Aqualung. Sitting on a park bench.
I love that riff.
I love
little
that
girls are bad
Don't love
intent.
that band, but that riff is good.
That is an excellent song. And by the way, it's the only
It's
Jethro.
very quirky.
It's the only Jethro Tull song that is as mammoth as it is that everybody knows that doesn't have the flute in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, think about that.
Good point.
So I mean, even though you might look, I was never a big fan of the Moody Blues until I interviewed Justin Hayward, and then when I got him, I was like, oh wow, I appreciate that.
That's cool.
Basically, what they did is they suckered the record company so that they can use their top of the line stereo recording equipment to make their own album, having the record company think the entire time they were going to do some orchestration that the beautiful music lover would be able to enjoy.
Right.
Boy, they got him good. And I love that kind of stuff.
What's that song that they do? Dun, 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 dun,
Wildest Dreams.
That's
Is
a
that
good
the
one.
later one?
That's a later one.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, something
In
like that.
your wildest
Is that what it's called? Yeah,
dreams.
yeah. I like that. I like
That's a
that
good
tune.
one. That's that. I would.
You know what
say
that song reminds me a little bit?
That's a California
It
song.
reminds
right
me
there.
Yeah,
a
it
little
feels that
bit
way.
of that Roxy Music song that I love so much.
Love is the drug.
No, I like that song too, but of course,
You know,
I'm
I mean,
blanking out.
it's really. I know what you mean. It's
off
really
of
difficult.
Avalon.
Yeah, I can't remember. As soon as you know what I'll remember
More than this.
But yes, I'll
That's my
remember.
favorite
those
Roxy music.
really do have
They're
a similar
They're
quality.
similar. They're very like California Caribbean-ish movies.
Yeah,
Like, the songs
yeah.
that belong like on a boat with a beautiful model, like the one you were walking with earlier.
Oh well.
You know what I mean? Can
Yeah,
you
well,
picture that?
Not everybody can be me.
Perhaps Ginger and
Yeah,
Marianne.
you know what though? I was more like Bosley from Charlie's.
Just talking over intercom.
No. Bosley's the guy in the office
Exactly.
who Cheryl Loud goes, "Oh, he's got gout." I'm like, "Thanks." Dance, I got
Bosley
gout.
was like that show's version of the little guy from Hervé Villechaize.
I also got him confused with Mr. C from Good.
That's right.
What is it?
Happy Days.
Happy Days.
Not
yeah,
Good Times.
Yeah, Happy Days. Good Times is another good one.
JJ.
All right, so you have these different influences. I think that's all great. You know what I would say? Just don't discount anything.
No. Well, here's what we would do. This is what I thought. This is what I think personally, and I see if Ron agrees with me. That makes for an interesting listen in a record, because nowadays there's not really like it's not really like an album that comes out. Even though a band puts out an album, you can tell that it's like it's based on a couple songs. it's not really based on a full listening experience.
And there's
like a lot
no
of records
theme.
are.
Usually there's no theme. Yeah.
I think what helped us create that without sitting down and going, let's do this, was those drives back and forth from Vegas and listening.
Where Virginia's
and
farting
going,
up the band.
it was mostly he and I going out there and doing that. And then we would put on my phone kind of just like a couple different bands that were the theme for our ride out there.
Oh, you
know?
put a playlist together.
Yeah. And it was like whatever we were feeling like just all kinds of different bands. Like 1 minute it was The Clash or The Refused.
Oh my gosh, The Clash is awesome.
And then we would put on Michael Jackson, and then we would just listen exclusively to AC/DC, and then we'd put on Soundgarden, and then it was Alice in Chains, and then it was like stuff that you wouldn't think that we would listen to, like different. We're also
Leon Dion.
Well,
I heard you sound like Leon Dion.
But he and I are also very big fans of '80s, like big hits from '80s, like Missing Persons.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Tears for Fears and things like that.
Talking Heads.
Yeah. So we would have like this massive '80s playlist that would come on, and those songs, like those songs are hits. They're very song oriented, but strangely enough, they're interesting. They're not like they don't go from A to B. They go to a bunch of different places, but they create a
personality.
I like
they create a strong track.
We talked about physical graffiti, and that's an example of doing that. You have some of the hard, and then you have the acoustic, and it's like just all over the place.
Right.
I can't
Physical
think of
Graffiti
any.
is basically the Led Zeppelin's White Album.
Yeah, well, kind of. It's more like their first greatest hits.
Well, that record's
leftovers.
also weird too because there's a bunch of songs that were like not of that recording session.
That's right.
They're older songs.
They were putting them
Houses
all.
of the Holy, perfect example. That was supposed to be on Houses of the Holy.
Right. Well, I asked about that. If you must know, I go, you guys had no imagination. Led Zeppelin 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Well, what was up with that? He goes, we didn't put much thought into it. I'm like, no kidding. And then 4, he decides that it's going to be untitled because he wanted to, give it to the critics a little bit.
That was almost like known as like Zoso, that record.
Zoso or Druid Ruins. I mean, it depends on who you ask, but those symbols on the album actually do have some meaning. So they did put some thought into it. And then Physical Graffiti and Houses of the Holy, they started changing up. Then you have Presence, and then, of course, In Through the Outdoor, which is really John Paul Jones and Robert Plant taking over because John Bonham and Jimmy Page were dealing with their addiction issues. They're off the charts. And then Coda is like going back in, much like Physical Graffiti. So an encapsulated story of Led Zeppelin really quick. And then, much like the Beatles, much like Led Zeppelin, and much like any of these successful bands, they just had so much material that they can keep reissuing it, right?
True.
To the point where I got mad at Jimmy Page. I go, I just got the complete collection. And now you're redoing all of these masters of your albums. And like, when's it over? But did you like it? I go, yeah, all right, I liked it. I'm not going to argue with the Jimmy Page.
Yeah, everything they do is just great.
For the most part, yeah.
So that's a great point that we just mentioned. Like, I would say like Physical Graffiti and White Album, and then like Dirt by Alice in Chains, and a bunch of other records. Those records, when we put them on, it's a journey. It's a journey. It's a musical journey.
Yeah.
It's a personal journey. And again, without sitting down and he and I going like, why don't we do this? It wasn't calculated, but I think it's just something that we enjoy. So that's what we did.
So you guys are like Bernie Taupin and Elton John.
Yeah, he's Elton.
Like you let him.
I'm probably Elton.
Elton Ron.
I'll get my gap tooth back.
Oh, boy. Oh, or like Lennon and McCartney. Okay.
That's better.
Yeah. That's better.
Preferred.
And it doesn't matter which one we are of those.
Yeah.
Even though John Lennon's my favorite singer. Next to Ron.
Yeah.
And Lane Staley and some of those kind of guys, But no, but it's that kind of thing. It's like, that was the kind of music that we wanted to create. Obviously, you want people to like it, but first and foremost, we wanted to like it, and we wanted to love it, because even though, and I'm not trying to put down our earlier music, which I tend to do often, it was like we were a full part of it, but we weren't. And it's a weird thing to say, because it was like somebody else was pulling the strings.
It didn't feel right.
Yeah, it was a lot of arguing, especially me, about things, and it's just like, you shouldn't. If you're going to argue, the product at the end should be great.
Better.
And I wasn't satisfied. And I don't think I don't want to speak for Ron, but I wasn't satisfied. I just liked touring, basically, before.
For me, it was, I was walking into a situation where Mikey and the drummer had already been in a former band. So I was kind of like the new guy. And so a lot of the things I from the outside walking in were pretty established. So for me, I just took on a different challenge rather than being a songwriter or any of that stuff. It was more like, I want to be a better singer, because a lot of ideas were being presented to me like as a singer, like, hey, how about you do this melody? Things that I would never imagine doing. And I'm like, I can't do that. And then I could do it.
You found out you could, yeah.
Like, ooh, I'll just embrace that aspect of it, you know?
I want to tell you that I've listened to some of the Beatles demos, and even I can sing better than some of those demos.
Yeah.
So
Some of those demos are a mess.
they are a mess, but I just want you to know that if you keep practicing your craft and do it with confidence and have faith in yourself, you'll achieve a lot. And as far as that other drummer, whatever happens, you have him to thank, because if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be here now.
Of course.
So, you know, like always,
necessary.
it's a positive thing.
And you know what? Look, I'm not gonna lie. I think one of the things that happened during that time period too is like, I think I don't even think, I know for a fact with me, we sacrificed our musicality and how serious we are about that and how deep you want to be with it, with kind of like celebrity and shenanigans, for lack of a better term, you know what I mean?
We built the band up on like the Sunset Strip situation.
It was very
after
it was very over the top. There was a lot of like
You-
Kiss type visuals and things like that, and we were a lot of fun, and that's what a lot of people would say about us. But there was a lot of times where people didn't think we could play because it was so like electronic and whatnot, and then we would do these acoustic shows, and we're like, oh man, you guys are like really good musicians, and that started to get to me, you know. And I'm thinking like, what are we doing here? It's like this is ridiculous, and kind of went back to square one and just started like really focusing on the guitar and my craft and stuff like that, and playing and getting better and better at the instrument and exploring it more. And then when he left, we were able to just go, okay, cool. We realize this is a business, it's an industry. You don't want to go up there and look at your feet and be boring, because you know, we're not necessarily the type of band that's just gonna only have people like us because of our music. You know, you do have to have an aesthetic, you know, and a vibe.
Savoir-faire.
Exactly. But what we wanted to do was meet in the middle or come even further with the music. We wanted to show people, hey, we were forced to be reckoned with musically.
Yeah.
And that's what we were able, that's what this record means to us.
Good.
You know what I mean?
Fantastic.
And if it's just a launching point for that, to get people to find out even further that, hey, these guys really can play and really sing, and this guy's not like just some pretty boy or something like that, or whatever they think about us, you know? For example, the band we're on tour with yesterday, they came by and made some comment about his appearance, you know, or we get a lot of that, kind of like, oh, you guys are like just playboys, kind of, you know what I mean? And I'm like, nah, man, we're like a real band, you know, like we care about this stuff, so we want people to really just dig into our music, because that's how we've dug into creating it. You know?
Sounds good. So how can somebody follow you? I know you're probably all over
if they can't figure that out, I have no hope for them.
Well, there's always somebody listening like, you know, there's a guy my age
it's
going,
the number 9 electric, and basically all you have to do is put that into anything and it'll come up.
Okay.
Spotify. We prefer that if you're going to listen to us,
right,
you know, and this is the digital age, you gotta listen to like Spotify and stuff like that. One of the important things about Spotify is the actual numbers are there.
Well, you know, this broadcast is going on Spotify, so that's
amazing. That's perfect.
But when someone sees,
we were talking about football earlier, and you were saying, you know, Eli Manning's better than Phillip Rivers.
Yes,
it's true. It's
all true.
Two
I know
Super
you're
Bowls and that whole
that
whole thing.
Okay,
it's stats, man. You know what I mean?
It's stats. Yeah. Compiler,
and look. Eli's stats are. Somebody was talking about, to segue real quick. Somebody was talking about how Eli doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. Which I agree,
does.
Which I agree.
He does.
But But I guess I would say that he belongs in the Hall of Fame because he beat Tom Brady twice.
You know, and you look at those I'll just tell you this. There's the one play where he gets Manningham up on the left side, and it's, I think, somewhere in the fourth quarter. He looks off 3 different receivers within a second and a half and makes that throw and an incredible catch. There's very few people that can do that. He's still got the arm. You also have to understand that if Tom Brady had to run for his life and had that kind of blocking scheme that the Giants offered him over the years, he'd be pedestrian as well.
Right.
All right. So you gotta, you know, Phillip Rivers belongs in the Hall of Fame along with Ben Roethlisberger as well as Eli Manning. There are 3 guys in an era that I don't think will ever, you know, be forgotten in the history of the NFL.
Who's the guy? I guess it was Jeff Hostetler.
Jeff Hostetler
he won
was
the Super Bowl that 1 year against
with the Giants, but
right.
the Giants.
He doesn't belong in this.
No, he doesn't. But Phil Simms does.
Absolutely.
Okay, because without Phil Simms, they don't get to the Super Bowl the second time.
Right.
Again, you know, there's not many quarterbacks you can think from that era off the top of your head besides Joe Montana, Phil Simms, and you know who gets Marino, and also Marino is in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Boomer Esiason,
right.
who was an MVP twice, who went to the Super Bowl, almost won it. He's, you know, beaten by the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
And one time. And he's a good friend of mine. And we had a guy at work who said, bro, I would give a kidney to see the Jets go to the Super Bowl. So I go to Boomer.
I think that guy's kidney is safe.
Yeah, so I go the Boomer, Boomer, what kind of idiot would give up a kidney just to see his team get to the Super Bowl? You don't want to go to the Super Bowl and lose it.
Right.
And he looked at me and I looked at him. I'm like, sorry.
Right.
You know, so, you know, but
so
in his defense, he was there. How about that?
True,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So stats. That's one thing that's really important with Spotify stats. Just like, you know,
so we got that.
Yeah. So, you know, Facebook, Instagram, we're under 9electric, the number 9electric, and YouTube.
If you're a guy,
it's the world is digital now, man. It really is.
Yeah,
and like,
it is.
CDs are. Rock fans are really slow to get into digital things. I don't really know why, because I'm a rock fan and I love digital. Well, I listen to music exclusively on my phone.
Yeah.
Apple Music is on all day, every day.
I like Apple Music. I like the plan. It's just the real elderly just avoid it.
But there have been, you know, our record's been out for a couple months now, and there's been more fans than I want have said, I haven't heard it yet because I need to get CD. And I'm like, you haven't heard it yet? Like, you could at least listen to it. You can get a physical CD when we come through town because nobody sells CDs anymore.
Look, I'm going to tell anybody who's in a band this. You don't need a record company. You do not need that much support. All you need to do is go out and do it. The technology is available to where you can have decent recordings using Adobe Audition.
Absolutely.
Do not waste your money on Pro Tools. Sorry, Pro Tools, but you're way too expensive with your updates. And you can get Mbox. But if you really have a desire to do it, just start doing it. Stop making excuses. Get out there. You know, there's a way.
Excuses are a problem for anything.
Excuses are for losers.
And in the entertainment industry, nobody wants to hear that shit because everybody's grinding away.
That's right.
And people go from complete nobodies to on top of the world. Lady Gaga is an amazing example.
Yeah, well, you can, the people you meet on the way up are the same people you meet on the way down. You just have to be well grounded.
Right.
Too many people believe the press clippings too. That's another problem over the years.
There's too much, and there's too many people. I read it something yesterday. I don't know if it was like millennials or baby boomers, or whatever. But there's a really high percentage of people who constantly resharing fake news. They don't read.
Oh yeah, they just go by the title.
Or
there's another thing.
The source name. Or
there's
something.
Another thing that happens. There's a very common thing on Facebook that happens that there's resharing of people who have died like 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Like, oh my God, he's dead. I'm like,
I'm so lost without him.
The date is right
my
there.
Best friend.
Yeah.
It's not. The date is not huge, but I mean, that's something like sharing that somebody is deceased is at least something that you should do like a little bit of research.
I think that I remember just a couple weeks ago that happened, and then when somebody dies, I'm like, I thought he was dead already.
Absolutely, you can't tell now. It's like the Abe Vigoda thing.
Stay off of Facebook. How about that? Now, if you're
unfortunately, we have to. I mean, for me, I have to.
Well, I'm talking about
right.
Just people like me. Look, if you're a guy in your privilege and you want to go see 9electric, I suggest wearing khaki pants and a nice stylish shirt.
Totally, Dockers, the Dockers look.